My name is Jerem Toy, and this is my ID-300 book review presentation. I'm choosing to present on the book Lights Out by Ted Koppel, who is shown on the left. This book seeks to answer the question, what would happen if the United States power went out large scale for a long time? He separates his book into three different sections. First, demonstrating that the United States' power is actually really easy to cut. Second, that the United States is not prepared for a large-scale power outage. And third, that we ourselves should be preparing for the worst. He demonstrates that the power is easy to cut through examples of cyber warfare and cyber attacks, specifically mentioning the Iran nuclear program, which was set back 2 years due to a cyber attack. He also mentions a physical cyber attack on an AT&T electrical substation, where a group of trained former soldiers managed to completely destroy their substation. He says that if 9 of these substations were simultaneously attacked and destroyed, it could result in a power outage spanning the entire United States. He goes on to discuss how the United States itself is unprepared for a large-scale power outage. First, our energy usage is greater than any other country, as our residential, commercial, and industrial energy usage reaches into the 3.5 trillion kilowatt hours. Supposing that our energy was to be completely canceled, to be turned off by a successful cyber attack, our residential, commercial, and industrial living would completely fail. Most of our food systems rely on these. Thus it is that the situation in urban cities, especially in New York State, would quickly devolve. They have roughly 20 or 30 million meals ready to eat, MREs, Ted Koppel says, on standby. The population at the time of his writing was 17 million. That's enough for all of New York State to be provided for 2 days. But in the event of a large-scale power outage, especially in the case of a transformer, which are very difficult to replace due to their size, cost, and relative difficulty to build, it could last a year. This is why he says we should be preparing for the worst. He highlights what he calls preppers, specifically mentioning the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Preppers being people who go to the extremes in preparing for disasters by providing themselves with extra food, water, and food storages of all sorts, and grounds, lands, anything that might help them stay secure in the event of an economic crisis. He praises the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for their organizational skills and their industrial development and ability to react to disasters, which he compares to the United States government, and in an indirect way praises the Church as being more organized and better. His audience is the political audience, the voting population of the United States. Clearly, he wants us to do better. He introduces the idea that there have been multiple cybersecurity bills that have failed in the Senate that he himself agrees with. Noticing that 82% of Americans live in urban areas, which would be the areas most affected by grid failure, it is rather evident that he is also focused on those affected most by grid failure. Why is this important? Well, part of it is that his audience is also important. Electric power has become a necessity, as shown prior in the United States. And a recent article published in 2019 stated that in testimony before a congressional committee, it has been asserted that a prolonged collapse of this nation's electrical grid through starvation, disease, and societal collapse could result in the death of up to 90% of the American population. He also has a journalist background. He's a very famous journalist, or at least he was for much of his life. And he has the experience of many political backgrounds and research up his sleeve. This is the topic that he has chosen out of all of them to write a book on, testifying to the fact that he sees it as extremely important. Here are my references.